Hi, Rikash of Corona Samizdat and writing fame in that several people on different continents have read some of my books and liked them. It's fame, which is usually followed by money. I'm waiting for the money. I realize that one way I could get money is by turning this into a popular podcast or whatever they are. But I just started this thing as a joke, and then I started a press, less as a joke, as a press, and so now I do this because it's a press, and I realize from watching the numbers, that's what you got to do. You got to watch the numbers. I remember Noah Clemens of Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse telling me early on what I have to do to get the numbers up. Well, what ended up happening was Noah did an episode of his own, and he mentioned this as something that deserved more followers, and like I got 50 more followers. I think I went over the 200 mark at that point. That was years ago, and now I'm up to 760 or so, without trying, because I just I try to talk a little bit about the books that we put out, and every once in a while something else. I've noticed that in watching the numbers and trying to get money to pour down on my fame, I've noticed that not a lot of people tend to like or view political episodes, and so I think, okay, I probably shouldn't do a lot of political episodes. And then I was watching the Electronic Intifada. You should look it up sometime. It's a brilliant show supporting the Palestinian cause, and they interviewed a woman a Palestinian woman in Gaza, I believe in a tent area called Al Mawasi, which is they call it Central Gaza, but it's more southern. Khan Yunis, the western edge between Khan Yunis and the sea, a tent city that's safe. It's been bombed many times, and you get a lot of fires, And this woman lost several children. She was. She said we were just sitting there, and then suddenly a missile hit, and then everything was on fire, and I was buried, and I crawled out from under the rubble, and some people helped me further to come out for my rubble, and or from the rubble on me, and I looked around and for my children, and all my children were on fire. I mean, my God, it's one of the worst things that I've it's compounding some of the horrific things that have been going on for well, depending on how you mark it, at least since this current genocide, which, well, we won't go into the whole thing, but I just wanted to point out that, when you read or you hear someone, you see an interview of someone who says, all my children were on fire, you begin to wonder, what are my obligations as a human being? You don't begin to wonder. I've been wondering ever since the retaliation by the Israelis began, and it was clear that this time wasn't going to be like 2014, 2011, 2010, 2009, 2008. This was going to be at 2018, 2021. Wasn't going to be one of those, short, sometimes a month, 2 months, 3 months, but never more than 3 months, I think, wasn't going to be one of those where they just kill a few thousand people, or a few hundred even sometimes in a good year. This was going to be a really major retaliation, murder fest, whatever collocations, phrases, or words best work. Genocide is okay with me. I would say that Zionist is inherently genocidal. Um, the success of the Zionist project requires the elimination of all the native population, um, who are predominantly Palestinian. So I think genocide fits. And there's an open call for genocide or project, whatever Trump's support of Netanyahu amounts to. Um, it definitely is an ethnic cleansing project, and it to succeed it requires a great many people to accept that there are innocent mothers who get bombed, survive, and in their state of semi-shock and probably great physical pain, are panicky and looking around for their children, and all their children are on fire. That has to be accepted. Now, we could turn this into a literary program by saying, what is the novelist's imperative when it comes to injustice? Well, there are organizations like PEN, and and then suddenly it becomes perverse, because you have to be. I'm not in PEN. Nobody in PEN would have me. They'd say, "You have a pen? No, yeah, get out of here, get out of here." And most of our writers, maybe all of my writers, the Corona Samizdat writers that we've published, are ineligible for PEN, as far as I know. None are in PEN, and the writers I know in Europe. I met at the Prague Micro Festival. I met Louis Armand, who is a pretty big name in small press, but he's there's a very funny episode, and I covered it here, where he was attacked by a gatekeeper. The some asshole who started a not the Booker Award at the Guardian, and I think to his frustration, every year, to him it probably seemed like every year, and for some years it probably was. Louis Armand was chosen by the public to be one of the one of the not the Booker winners. These were to be chosen by the public rather than the secret panel or whatever it is that the Booker uses. And it's a good idea, and all that. But, this guy was not going to tolerate being, he invented this thing. He's not going to allow some upstart like Louis Armand, whose writing is, well, it's just not fit. It's not fit. You can't, so this is the guy, he's doing something that's essentially opposed to gatekeeping, and but he will not tolerate someone like Louis Armand being let in. And there's some very, very funny stuff when one of Louis's books, I think it was The Combinations, got a lot of support, and there are long threads of public discussion about it, and there's even an accusation that these supporters of Louis Armand are sock puppets, meaning there aren't the dozens of them that there seem, there's only one or two with lots of, all saying the same thing. And it was all nonsense, of course. But still, Louis Armand, not in pen, I'm sure. And I think he would probably, even if he watched this, he would probably say, insufficient, Rick, your heart's in the right place, but you're a feckless fool for even trying. And I'll accept that from Louis, but not from the gatekeepers, not from anyone else. So the question is, what is the imperative for a writer? The writer is no different from anybody else. His imperative is to be human. Listen to that music. That's a guy who goes around town with a giant speaker and, just walks by. And at first you think, come on. Does the whole neighborhood have to listen to your music? But we all know him. His name is Ike, A-Y-K, Ike. And he's got a boat that's parked right outside here. So sometimes you'll have to listen to it for a couple of hours, but usually he's just walking by. So, and his taste in music has gotten better, in my opinion. But anyway, I think Ike is probably trying to drown out the screams of horror of the children of Gaza. That's my opinion. That's all.